Mama Gravas is the 19th episode of the first season of Taxi. This is, of course, directed by the wonderful James Burrows. And as always, there will be spoilers from now as I go through the episode and share some thoughts. It's an okay episode. I wouldn't say I disliked it, but I didn't really care for it. And that's largely because I don't really like Latka. Occasionally he can make me laugh, but unfortunately that wasn't really the case here. But I didn't mind it, so I'll talk about what happens, share a few thoughts, but honestly, I don't really have a lot to say. It starts off establishing that Latka's mother is coming to visit. He's dressed really smartly. It's always kind of strange to see Latka in something other than his usual clothing, so that was kind of interesting. And unfortunately, Louie broke his promise. He was going to give Latka the day off, and he's decided to break that promise so Latka can no longer spend the day with his mother. And he asks Alex, who's just gotten off of a shift, to show his mother around and to make sure his mother is not lonely. And initially Alex isn't wanting to do this. And then he sees Latka's mother. She's called Greta. She's played by Susan Kellermann. And she's conventionally attractive. So Alex decides actually he will take her out. And we see them having food together and generally interacting. We get, I think, far too much conversation in Latka and Greta's native language. Every now and then in little bits it's fine, but I feel like throughout the episode it was too much, and it just meant that there was so much of the episode where I had no idea what anybody was saying, and it was just kind of boring. And Greta as a character is not a bad character. She's not a badly written character, but I didn't like her necessarily. I didn't think she was interesting, so that part of it never appealed to me either. The lack of narrative, well, it's not so much of a lack of narrative, it's just a lack of interesting aspects of the narrative. It is okay if the character is interesting, and unfortunately she just wasn't. So for me, there wasn't really any element of this that worked for me. We then find out the following day that Alex had spent a lot of time with Greta, and romantically, and he confides in Elaine. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know if Latka should find out, and, well, it doesn't matter because Latka found out anyway, and he comes in and he's actually really happy. And then his mother comes in and Latka is no longer happy because he finds out they're not getting married. Latka wanted or assumed Alex and Greta would get married, and he then forgives his mother because she talks with Latka and basically explains that she'd been lonely since his father had died, and this was just her way of no longer being lonely in the moment. And I feel like it would be very hard to stay angry at somebody who said that. I don't know if that's how she genuinely felt or if she was manipulating things. I don't really know. I don't think it really matters too much in the moment. But he's still mad. Latka is still mad at Alex. And it's quite a heavy moment, but Louie does manage to lift it up and bring the comedy back up by by approaching Alex and making him very aware of the fact that Louie's mother is off limits. It was a nice way to lift the scene back up. And then, honestly, the rest of it's really, really slow and not that interesting. Alex goes to talk with Latka. Latka has no interest in being his friend again, even though he admits he still likes Alex, but he can't see them ever being friends again. And eventually, they're friends again. I did like the little bum wiggle they had to do to be friends again. That was probably the only amusing bit in that part of the episode. And then the final scene is just the most boring, pointless thing everywhere. They're all around a table and it was just really dull. So actually, I don't think this is a great episode. It feels a little bit gimmicky with the character of Greta, but I didn't think she was an interesting character. Highlights would have to be Louie mentioning his mother and the little bum wiggle at the end with Latka and Alex. Other than that, I found it to be mostly a dull episode. Not necessarily bad, but I do think the pacing was a little bad towards the end. But other than that, it was just kind of boring. So not one that really appealed to me. A couple of moments that worked well, but in general, Mama Gravas was not one that I enjoyed very much.